Hi, good afternoon. We're here with Tom from Warrendale Wagyu. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Hi.
Good stuff. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. So if you'd like to just, head straight in, we'll ask you a bit about what you do, who you are, how long you've been doing it for, please.
Okay, yeah, so Tom Richardson, I'm the Managing Director of Warrendale Wagyu. Wagyu is a breed of beef, and we produce beef with about 400 partner farmers around the UK. We're based in Yorkshire near Pocklington, and we've been in business for about 5 years. And we pretty much run the supply chain from breeding of the cattle on contract farms through to finishing them, and then we process them and sell the meat into various markets, from supermarkets through to the restaurants, export online. So it's kind of end-to-end supply chain that we run using Wagyu beef, which is originally a Japanese breed, and it's famed for its eating quality and its kind of marbling within the meat. So it's quite famous for being a quite indulgent premium product.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So in terms of the pandemic and your business and that affecting things, what was the biggest impact for you guys?
The biggest impact was actually just the switch in sales pretty much overnight. We were fortunate that we'd been negotiating a deal with the supermarket for a while, and it started off at that point. So we switched from pretty much 80% of sales into food service restaurants, and that pretty much stopped overnight with the pandemic, and we started supplying more into retail, and we also launched our own direct to home delivery service in April 20, which was again really lucky timing on our part, that we'd been developing that for about 6 months, and we launched it just as kind of lockdowns hit. So that really got off to a really strong start. So the main learning was actually switching a business from one sector into another. And I think going into it, we were very concerned that as a premium product, and going into an unknown, which is a pandemic with lockdowns, we were very concerned that actually if people were going to be starved of income and looking to down trade, that actually they wouldn't want to buy our products and would buy cheaper products. But actually the opposite happened, and people were stuck at home, obviously furloughed, and there was income support, and people probably got back into food and enjoying food and cooking from scratch. So we really saw probably the opposite of what we feared happen, and more people coming to us for their products.
Sure. Affordable luxuries definitely in lockdown. I know that was something in our house that we enjoyed to be able to have things to look forward to.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. So obviously you've taken a couple of actions there during the pandemic that were already sort of planned in the pipeline. So is there anything that you had to change because of a direct impact of the pandemic, that a couple of actions you took and possibly that have stuck with the business? Any sort of learnings during that period?
Yeah, look, I think because the business was pretty young going into that, we were only probably 2.5, 3 years old at that point. And we'd been developing our business into various sectors, but we were quite heavy into food service. And I think one of the big learnings that we've taken out is don't have all your eggs in one basket. So we make sure we spread our business risk across, whether it's supermarkets, still into food service, but making sure we're supplying the right customers. Our online business, growing that direct to consumers in their homes, export, manufacturing. So the big learning for me running the business is to make sure we have our risk spread across a number of sectors. Should anything come left field and hit us again what we're not expecting, we will hopefully spread our risk and not be too damaged by it.
Good share. Thank you very much. Yeah.
The other thing probably is the impact on staff, and we all feel it, that there's a challenge on getting and retaining really good staff. So we've made sure we focus on that and making it a good place to work, an enjoyable place to work, and really nurturing the people we have, and putting in, again, as a young business, putting in proper development programs and supporting our team members so that hopefully they can grow with us and they'll stick with us, because we're in pretty rural location, so we haven't got loads of chimney pots around us. So we've got to make sure that we attract the best people and make sure that we can retain them.
Great, thank you. You mentioned there about not knowing what the future holds and diversing risk and things like that. In terms of what you can see where the future is from your point of view, from a business perspective, and potentially what you can predict, what does it look like for you guys now from sort of post-pandemic and where we are? And then what are the main challenges of those that you see going ahead?
Yeah, so I think to my earlier point is making sure we're spread across a number of markets. And since, this year in particular, we've started to build our export market. We see great opportunity for our product in international markets, and it's fairly hard for us to access in terms of the post-Brexit paperwork and things we've got to go through, which we did do a bit of export pre-pandemic, and it was easy. It was just like into Europe, it was like supplying within the UK, but that certainly moved on, and we've geared up with the right people and trying to build the right partnerships initially in Europe, but we see opportunity further afield for our product, because we're producing beef in a really high welfare, sustainable manner within the UK, some of the highest animal welfare and farming standards in the world, and we're producing a fantastic product with 400 partner farmers. So we've got a really great story. So we can build our international business, we think, but not neglect our domestic market. We've still got really great relationships with some key supermarkets in the UK, some key restaurant groups, and also various manufacturers and things who add value to our products. So we definitely see development for our business in that way. And also from a production point of view, what our scheme and what our business is trying to offer farmers is a secure market where they can produce Wagyu beef for us, and we can secure them a fixed price and sustain that, and hopefully offer them a bit of stability and security in what is a world that is not very stable and secure at the moment. So we see great opportunities to build new business with customers, but also take on more farmers across the UK. We are very strong in Yorkshire in the north, but we're growing down into the south, up in Scotland and all over. But what our scheme offers is something unique in terms of a relatively new breed of beef to the UK, which and very customer focused in terms of producing high quality beef in the trend of meat consumption is probably less meat but better meat. So Wagyu beef really fits that. So we want to build our farmer partnerships and really grow a strong business for all the 400 odd farmers that are with us, and the customers who love our product.
Great. Yeah, it's fascinating to hear around from farm to plate, and get a bit of an insight as to the workings of that on this interview. Thank you for that. So moving on to yourself in terms of running the business, and trying to ask you one thing in the time that you've been there, what would be your biggest learning since running the business, if you can choose one? Because I appreciate there's plenty of learnings that go on for business owners.
I think one of the biggest ones was probably from the pandemic is, if we hadn't have invested in online shopping, if we hadn't have got some retailers, in the pipeline when COVID hit, we could have been in a very different position. So I think that was a really big learning for me, is not to rely too much on one market, and within those markets, then not rely too much on one customer within those markets. I think just spreading risk, because the art of our business is we take a beef animal and we deconstruct it into hundreds of parts, and we've got to sell all those effectively to make the business work. So we've got to make sure we are setting ourselves up to access the best markets. And I think the other thing is, like every business, anyone running a business will tell you, is the people we employ. So we've got to attract the best people with the best skills for where our business wants to go, and retain them, reward them, because as we're seeing at the moment, there's lots of opportunities for people to move on quickly, the job market is very strong for people looking. So we've got to make sure that we are making it a fulfilling workplace where people can grow with us, and they can be rewarded for their efforts.
Thank you for that. Yeah, lots of things resonating there with other business owners that I speak to in terms of the employment side of things, attracting the right talent and being able to keep them there. Thank you for that. So moving on to your sort of advice, really, if a young person starting out in business or potentially even reflecting on yourself, perhaps at 18, if there's one piece of advice, someone starting out in business, or thinking of going into business, what would that be from your perspective?
It's a great question. I think a bit to my previous point is that there seems to be when I went into my first job 20 years ago working for a retailer, I stuck at it for 10 years, and I would think that's probably not the norm nowadays. That it's a lot more transient. So I would advise anyone going in that, stick at it, and if you like the values of the company, if you see opportunity and you enjoy it, don't be afraid to commit and stick to a company, because you'll be rewarded in the long term for it. I think there's perhaps too much of looking over your shoulder and the grass is greener type mentality. Whereas if if it's an industry you're passionate about, a company you think has got the same values as you share, then as a youngster, get stuck in, be inquisitive, build a support network around yourself, and look to grow with that company and make a plan with them and show that you'll commit to them. And I think in return, you'll get reward for that.
Good stuff. Thank you. And in terms of inspiration that you use, maybe another good question for what you do or where you look for inspiration. Could be books you read, friends, family. Obviously, you mentioned team members and the people that you work with. What's inspiring you currently, Tom?
Well, I'm pretty full on with 3 young kids, so
on top of your job.
They both inspire me and frustrate me at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what inspires me is that I'm in an industry that I absolutely love. I've got an agricultural background, a food background in retailing in the UK and abroad, and I'm in a business now that does all of that. We deal with farmers, we deal with kind of trying to find the best genetics for our cattle and produce the best beef with the best farmers in the most sustainable way. And we take that right through processing, adding value, and we sell that into, Michelin star restaurants in London. We sell it into Europe, and it ends up in all sorts of exotic places. We sell to, likes of Waitrose, we sell to Aldi. I look at what I do and it kind of totally fits with what I love doing in terms of being a premium foodie product, but linking agriculture to the end consumer, which I think has potentially lacked. It's lacked across my career. So I think it's trying to link up the whole parts of the supply chain is what really inspires me. And I think where I take inspiration internationally, because the product that we produce is produced all over the world. It originates in Japan, it's in Australia, and we look internationally as to what people are doing to see how we can improve and evolve our business. So while we're a small little Yorkshire-based company, we try and look globally for inspiration, but act locally with what we can do in the UK. And in terms of how we operate, what inspires me or motivates me is really that collaboration. So we're working with 400 farmers, we're bringing retailers to those farmers and building something I think is a bit different in the food industry, where we're trying to all work together for the same cause. And it could seem fairly idealistic, but we've got an end purpose of trying to produce the best quality beef in the best way, giving customers what they want, and bringing a group of kind of collaborative farmers together to do that. So that's what inspires us, working together for a common cause.
Great, strong inspiration indeed. I like it. Thank you. So, lastly, is there any kind of latest news? I mean, you've reflected quite a bit on obviously the business model and spreading risk and the markets that you're in. But if you want to direct people to maybe a website or say share any latest news that you might have, feel free.
Yeah, well, we sell beef online through our website, warrendalewagyu.co.uk. So you can, nationwide delivery next day. You can get some fantastic beef onto your doorstep. Yeah. But in terms of how our supply chain works, we've also got another website called wagyufarmers.co.uk, and that talks more in detail to, I guess, our farming and agricultural audience about what our scheme does and how you can get involved and how it all works. So that's the two areas I'd push people to, whether you're in the agri business and looking to work with us, or whether you're a consumer wanting to taste our product. That's where I point you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Tom. It's been really good. I hope it all goes from strength to strength for you. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Cheers.